Waves may have missed their cue today, but surfers faced lineups of a different kind overnight as fans were keen to get a sight of the best bodyboarders in the country. Come morning, the look didn't agree with everyone at South Newcastle, with conditions not the greatest in terms of competition, but it didn't bother world champion Daniel King. Crowned late last year, it was a golden time for the 25-year-old, even when over-anxious friends dislocated his shoulder while celebrating his win.
I survived 6 weeks on the North Shore in 6 to 10 foot waves, and then all the friends just end up hammering me. It's like, thanks fellas, good to be home.
He should be recovered in time for the World Tour opener in 2 months. Novocastrians put on a show in early heats today, with Chris Wilson showing he's coming of age with a range of specky manoeuvres in less than helpful conditions. Ben Gull was also shooting straight until he was knocked out in the quarters to leave Australian champion John Cruikshank the only local left alive for the finals, which are on Sunday.
The Cops vs Koori Challenge has marked the start of Surffest for the last 4 years. And it was no different this morning, with surfers from across New South Wales having to contend with messy conditions.
We had a southerly change move through this morning, so it brought with it some much needed swell. A little bit sloppy at the moment.
And for one of the organisers, Stan Moylan, this morning was a success in more ways than one. He took the honours in Heat 5 of Round 1 and was obviously impressed with his performance.
Oh, stoked. That's the first heat I've won ever, I think, from what I can remember, since '97 to now.
Tomorrow sees the start of the Billabong Indigenous Classic featuring both Koori and Maori board riders. Meanwhile, in a slight variation on traditional surfing, Lake Macquarie's Stuart Martin has taken out the National Kite Surfing Series in Western Australia. After winning the opening round of the season, Martin continued his good form and wound up with the win in Perth. And he has every intention of doing the same next year.
Try and do the circuit again and try and retain the title, hopefully.
Martin Karahi, NBN News.
The finishing touches were being added at Broadmeadow today, with the real question remaining of just what horse will walk through the Winner's Arch first. Longshot Zabara surprised everyone to take last year's feature, but runner-up in that race, Corral Boy, has strong claims on the 1400 metre trip, as does one of the John Hawkes stable.
Mantario. He's won 5 out of 10. He's got a good barrier. He's had one run this time in at Caulfield. On that occasion, the run was okay. I don't think he handled that way of going. He'll be better suited here at Newcastle.
The same logic could be used for Brit's Best. Based at Broadmeadow, the 5-year-old has been set for this event by trainer Christian Lees and has revelled since resuming in January with a sparkling Group 3 win at Rosehill the highlight. Larry Cassidy remains on board him, but Corey Brown won't be riding at all as he opts to rest a heel injury. It's unclear if he'll ever partner Boom Sprinter Exceed and Excel again, after confirmation that Tim Martin, trained galloper, was sold for a reported $22 million to Sheikh Mohammed's Dali Stud. After an English summer campaign, the 3-year-old Danehill colt will then be retired to stand at Dali's European and Hunter Valley-based stud. Riding high after a gritty opening round win, Newcastle isn't sure exactly what to expect from a Melbourne side lining up for its first game of the season, but reeling from a raft of off-field dramas. First were those rape allegations, quickly followed by the departure of Chief Executive John Rebo, while clouds have hung over the future of star half Matt Orford and coach Craig Bellamy.
I just think the fact that they're playing their first game at home, they're going to come out at us anyway.
The Bulldogs showed what a team under pressure can do last weekend against the Eels, but the Knights are keen to match their outstanding start in defence with attack.
We showed we had a bit of rust in us in our attack, not our defence, so hopefully we can clear that out a bit this week and certainly use the ball a little bit better and smarter than what we did last week.
The back rower will resume running tomorrow as he continues to manage an ankle problem, but the long turnaround will only help him and hooker Danny Badeiras prepare for Sunday's match. David Siege is the only fresh inclusion to the run-on side, while Adam Woolno's strong showing against the Panthers keeps him in the front row ahead of Matt Parsons.
He's just someone that takes a bit of time to run into Nick, but he'll be putting plenty of pressure on in the next week or two.
For the Newcastle and Hunter Rugby Union, there's never been a better time to increase the popularity of the sport in the region. In the wake of the success of last year's Rugby World Cup and Rugby League's recent scandals, it's little wonder player numbers are up for the coming rugby season.
Particularly in the juniors, we've seen great growth in junior numbers, probably up close to 10%.
Last night's 2004 season launch was all good news for rugby fans, with the announcement of continued support from corporate sponsors, as well as the introduction of a junior development officer for the region. Newcastle Lord Mayor and avid rugby supporter John Tate was on hand to display his passion for the sport. And some important milestones this season should add to the local interest in rugby union.
The Bullaroo and Lake Macquarie Club, they've got their 75th anniversary this year, and the University Club has their 50th anniversary, so there'll be some big rugby celebrations throughout the year.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
It's possibly one of the most scenic open-air venues the Hunter has to offer, and today 6 bands from Maitland to Muswellbrook made most of the space as they battled it out in the final of the Rock Bands competition, which began last year with only a handful of competitors. Cessnock was back to defend its title, but it was a group from the host school that found favour with the judges. Mountview High's band Cows Go to Church taking competition honours and snaring a day in a recording studio.
This is really the only thing every year that all the schools can come together and compare and compete, and it's really good. It's pretty healthy for musicians to get out there and do that.
Colleen West, NBN News.
It's the one day of the year when seafood is on just about everyone's shopping list. At the Commercial Fishermen's Co-op in Wickham this morning, the fish were rolling out. Prawns were being moved by the crate load. And shoppers were simply numbers in the crowd. While others chose to do things the more traditional way and take advantage of a spectacular day on Lake Macquarie, water sports enthusiasts were out making the most of their long weekend and taking advantage of weather not normally associated with the Easter break. And amateur anglers were out in force, but for some the size of the prize wasn't quite the Easter present they were hoping for. Meanwhile, for others, the true meaning of Easter was remembered at a Good Friday service at Christchurch Cathedral. Parishioners of all ages came to hear the story of Christ's death and resurrection. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
A few years without an NBN Soccer League premiership is a few too many for Hamilton, and it's no surprise the return of old faces has brought pre-season success. Former premiership winning captain Matt Austin is back at Darling Street, while Corey Filipsevic has returned from England. It was Austin who denied Peter Juknowitz the first goal, with a little help from the bar. James Camp hitting the same spot as he opted for a long bomb. Robert Jovanovski just went into the referee's book after this challenge for the ball. Hamilton chipped away too, but it remained scoreless at the break. It took until midway through the second half before the home side managed to break through, and it came from the boot of Peter Beckler. Just minutes later, and Joel Grinnell made it 2 with a low-driving free kick that beat everyone to the net. Then, right on the bell, Filipsevic capped an impressive game with a goal of his own as Hamilton claimed the President's Cup and sounded a warning ahead of the season proper.
7 ambulance crews from across the region were the latest to become caught up in the prolonged delay at hospitals known as access block. They had to wait up to 2 hours each, with one crew forced into overtime.
We never can predict what the activity will be, and the other unpredictable factor is what time people will arrive.
The position of an ambulance liaison officer, which is integral in dealing with the delays, was scrapped last week due to funding problems. Despite other measures taken to ease the expected surge in holiday injuries and illnesses, such as increasing ambulance crews, the John Hunter Hospital General Manager says a problem solver position to liaise with crews and hospitals would not have helped.
Well, an ambulance liaison officer will not be available 24 hours, 7 days a week. And the other problem would be that we wouldn't be able to predict when we'd have these peak activity times.
The John Hunter Hospital says they are undertaking discussions with the Ambulance Officers Union to discuss alternative solutions. Meanwhile, the GP Access After Hours clinics located within 5 hospitals and health centres throughout the Hunter attended to nearly double the amount of patients they normally treat each weekend.
We can make some differences in reducing delays in emergency departments, particularly with patients who have more minor illnesses.
GP Rodney Omond says patients can help ease future delays by calling the GP advice line before going to a clinic or hospital emergency room. Linda Kincaid, NBN News.
Ending up blurry-eyed from alcohol is not a recommended experience and deadly when coupled with driving. But now there's a way to demonstrate how debilitating this can be without a bottle in sight. These goggles actually simulate what it's like to be drunk, and they range in potency from a blood alcohol level of 0.07 to 0.2. For those at home, this is how it looks through the lenses. First, the group attempted to walk in a straight line without much luck. Then they tried to line up the ends of 2 pencils. And finally, and most importantly, they had to operate a vehicle.
Tell me you can see the brake.
Yeah, the brake's there somewhere. There we go.
Like most drink drivers, starting the vehicle wasn't the problem, but attempting to steer it proves difficult. Some lost total control. Research has shown that a hands-on experience means students are 2 to 4 times more likely to learn rather than just listening or watching, and these kids agree.
I think it's really bad. It really shows us like we don't have any control over our actions when we're drinking.
Organised by the Hunter District Apex Clubs, the free one-day training course will travel to 19 Hunter Valley high schools next term and perhaps in the future throughout the state.
Talking to the local area command, drink driving is a problem in the Hunter Valley. The statistics are quite high.
They're hoping this project will help turn that around. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
These are some of the performers that wowed audiences with their amazing acts of agility and strength at the opening ceremony of the 2000 Sydney Olympic Games. Today, Sydney acrobatic theatre company Legs on the Wall took a break from its hectic schedule to give young performing artists from Newcastle a taste of the high life.
The aim of this is to get the skills up so that with a view to the future, these guys are working and doing shows throughout the city.
Meanwhile, numbers at the 23rd Newcastle Ballet at Stedford are up by 25% this year, with more than 1,000 entries from the Gold Coast, Mid-North Coast, Dubbo and Sydney. Today it was the under-8s chance to show how they keep in time with the music. Newcastle's Maddie McGuinness was named winner of the novice bedroom section. The Stedford wraps up on the 23rd of April. Colleen West, NBN News.
When amateur golfers from Europe take on the best from the Asia-Pacific region in the Sir Michael Bonalac Trophy in Italy next week, the Australian contingent will be aptly represented by two rising stars from Newcastle. US amateur champion Nick Flanagan, who recently returned from an impressive first-up showing at the US Masters, will take on the Europeans with fellow Novocastrian James Niddies. Niddies, the New Zealand amateur champ, had a last-minute practice round today and was confident of a strong showing by the Asia-Pacific team.
I mean, I think we've got a good chance, and I mean we have got Nick playing for us, and the New Zealand guys are really competitive, so I think might be able to take it out.
With their status as two of Australia's most promising young golfers confirmed, a strong showing in Italy could soon see them joining the professional ranks and earning some real bread.
I can't wait to stop playing for toasters and start playing for cash. I mean.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
The Australian Rugby League has taken a large step into injecting some real tradition into the game. Now, as we see in cricket, every player who plays for Australia receives their own exclusive baggy green cap. Now in Rugby League, every player who represents their country will receive an individual number which will immortalise their place in the game's history. Now, the new numbering system will carry down to the game's grassroots, with all junior players carrying the number from their junior teams right through to the NRL. Now, some more good news for the game. From all reports that I'm hearing, the Players Association and the NRL are very close to creating their own piece of history, bringing in the game's first collective bargaining agreement. Now, for the first time in years, talks between the two parties have been more than fruitful, so look out for an announcement in the not too distant future on that one. Now, after 3 tumultuous weeks, finally some positives for the Newcastle Knights. Their desperate win last week against the Warriors has buoyed the hopes for Sunday's much publicised clash against the Roosters. Now, the launch of the new stadium developments and the fact that it is the first home game for the season will work towards the boys causing an upset. On to my tips for round 6. In tonight's game, I'm tipping the Warriors at home. Saturday, I'm taking the Raiders, Storm and the Broncos. Sunday, I like the Panthers, Eels and the Knights. Look, and don't forget, next Thursday, the footy show is coming to Newcastle at the Entertainment Centre. And also on Friday, next Friday, the Energy Australia Stadium, the Anzac Test, Australia versus New Zealand. It'll be a great game. Good news, you can still get tickets for both of those events. Make sure you don't miss out. Good luck with your tips. I'll catch you next week.
Security was stepped up today as Prime Minister John Howard made a visit to the Hunter. Asked about changes in the miners' royalty tax, Mr Howard was quick to rebut the Premier's call for miners to take their complaints to the Commonwealth. Premier Carr blames the withdrawal of $376 million of New South Wales grants as the reason for the tax hike.
We have given New South Wales more money, not less money, and the tax slugs in the New South Wales budget are Mr Carr's responsibility and nobody else's.
Another major issue concerning Hunter residents is the inadequacies of the bulk billing system. While the Prime Minister says the government's current scheme is working well,
if your out-of-pocket expenses go over $300 a year for most families, $700 for the rest, you get 80% of the excess paid for by Medicare.
Newcastle federal member Sharon Grierson says it's not enough.
People already in Newcastle are telling me that they are not going to see doctors because they can't afford it.
During his visit today, Mr Howard officially opened the Newcastle Private Hospital, encouraging a partnership between public and private sectors.
It has helped and indeed taken a great deal of the load off the public hospital system.
The new hospital is a four-fold expansion of the former NIB facility and expects to treat more than 12,000 patients a year. With the number of beds increasing from 38 to 162, it's hoped it will attract more specialists to the region. Linda Kincaid, NBN News.
As the last of the seating was fitted in place today, the new Eastern Grandstand really took shape. Work will continue into match day with a number of minor occupational health and safety issues to be addressed, but come kick-off, everything will be complete.
I think the power of prayer does a heck of a lot.
That may have helped with the recent good weather, but he knows full well just how hard those with the tools have worked. And for many, Sunday will really be a day of rest, fresh with tickets for the first home game.
We're giving them a few beers because they've worked very long hours, they've worked over Easter, they've worked over most weekends to make sure it's ready.
Late today, around 4,000 tickets were still available to the public, some of those in the new stand, as officials hope for a sellout against the Roosters. Sunday's NRL match has prompted local league officials to bring forward the much-anticipated Western Suburbs Lakes United match to tomorrow. Saturday also marks the start of the Newcastle and Hunter Rugby Union competition, with old rivals Wanderers hosting Hamilton, while premiers the Waratahs take on Easts. The NBN Soccer League also kicks off for the year tomorrow, but it's on Sunday where most interests lie, with Broadmeadow playing a Highfield side that's bought big this off-season. There'd be many National League sides that would love to boast the likes of premiership-winning players Shane Price and Troy Halpin, the latter returning to his old club side to give Azuri an extra strong look. The first goal, though, reflected much of the opening exchanges, willing and scrappy, but Mitchell Wallace wasn't about to hand back his season-opening score. Halpin's pinpoint lob handed Tony Majerowski one of several first-half chances, but the big striker's finishes were just a fraction out. 6 minutes into the second half, a moment of madness for Daniel Gardner. After being fouled, his reaction soon saw the defender seeing red. Majerowski found the answer, locking on this time to draw level. But Shane Price then fell foul of the referee inside the area, leaving Ricky Metcalf with a shot from the spot. Down a goal and a man, Highfields was always going to find it hard, and when Wallace struck a double, the game was as good as over. But there was still much more to come. Adam Rutledge's long-range effort, a screamer. While fellow substitute Tony Nikolovsky added a fifth in a 4-goal win.
It's been a long time in the making, but well worth the wait, according to these league fans.
Vast improvement on what it used to be.
Very good for the children, plenty of room for the leg.
A near-capacity crowd of 22,000 passed through the turnstiles yesterday, filling the revamped venue for the first of many matches to come.
Our normal big crowd in here and out of here, probably a lot safer and smoother than we've ever done before.
7,500 seats have been installed on the hill. The final stages of the upgrade will include the construction of a grandstand at the eastern concourse, along with corporate boxes, which will boost seating capacity to 26,000. And while there's still plenty of work to be done, the stadium certainly has come a long way.
First we used to sit on concrete, then we sat on wooden planks, and today we have great plastic seats.
And perhaps the biggest test for the stadium will be on Friday night, when it hosts what's hoped will be the first of many international matches, the Anzac Day test between Australia and New Zealand. Colleen West, NBN News.
It wasn't a case of too many cooks spoiling the broth today, as 70 apprentice chefs displayed their skills in a cook-off challenge.
It gives a chance for those apprentices who may be working not in a fine dining restaurant, maybe in your just a local cafe or a club, actually to shine amongst their peers, to do something more exceptional than what they do from every day at work.
With only a few hours to prepare a scrumptious three-course meal, the pressure was intense in the kitchen. Fourth-year apprentices are given only the ingredients and have to create the menu, while third years have to invent a mystery dessert.
It's very stressful, makes it hard.
Meanwhile, at the University of Newcastle, graduates from the Faculty of Education and the Arts dossed their caps as they were formally congratulated. More than 28 graduates received university medals recognising their high performance. Vic Drayik, a local artist and youth worker, says his experience and maturity will benefit his future students.
To be a youth worker and work with sometimes very challenging kids actually helps you to see something behind and, better say, beyond the educational goals.
Without Stacey Jones, Robbie Paul is a sight for sore eyes.
That's what happens when you get in the wrong place at the wrong time.
But it's the venue for Friday night's test match that the Bradford Bull isn't all that fussed about seeing for the first time.
It's not daunting, it's not exciting. I've played on some of the biggest stadiums in the world.
The field required running repairs during half-time on Sunday, and work continued today on a ground which hosted a Supercross event only 5 weeks ago.
My greenkeeper assures me that everything will be fine on Friday night.
It didn't seem to bother the Kangaroos today, who had their first run on the ground in front of fans. The three Knights playing the Kiwis are expected to back up the following night in Canberra. The trio have been named along with Ben Kennedy, who must prove his fitness by tomorrow. Craig Hall returns on the wing, while Clint Newton's starting spot selection rounds out a long road back for the 22-year-old. Told he would never play again after a second ankle reconstruction 9 months ago, he defied all expectations, including his own, to make it back. Repaying faith from family and friends, his motivation.
It was only a couple of days of that, and then I sort of woke up to myself and stopped carrying on like a bit of a sook and sort of got back into it.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.
Several years have passed since Craig Bowman last sat in the Port Stephens Mayor's office.
Physically, it probably hasn't changed that much. Legislation's changed, interference from state governments has changed, community expectations have changed, but the buildings, the people have gotten older, and that's about it.
And bringing a familiar face back to the position brings more benefits than just a sound understanding of what the job entails. It also means the council saves on office supply costs.
I did happen to have a plaque for the desk that was in my bag last night, 9 years old, business card and my old badge, which shows the old insignia.
Mayor Bowman and Deputy Mayor Ron Swan will lead a council of both old faces and new. Getting the council to work as a single entity is Mayor Bowman's first objective. After that, there's plenty of issues he's looking forward to tackling.
I'd like to concentrate on maximising our profits from our salamander land holdings. It's very important that we make good profits so that we can channel them back into the community.
Jessica Phyllis, NBN News.
My advice would be for them to thoroughly have their fireplace and chimney checked by a reputable organisation before lighting their fire.
With the holidays drawing to an end, traffic was flowing smoothly through the Hunter this afternoon, but police say drivers seem to be ignoring recent campaigns that have asked them to slow down and never drink and drive. Statistics up until midnight Sunday showed that out of 4,380 Hunter drivers breath tested, 39 drivers were arrested for drink driving, 272 drivers were booked for speeding, and 10 people were caught not wearing their seatbelts. All statistics were up compared with Easter 2003. Some motorists took the time to stop and revive at the John Renshaw Drive Driver Reviver caravan. Volunteer workers saw a steady stream of holiday makers keen to break up their journey home with a comforting cuppa. Those who weren't on the roads were happy to take in the last breath of warm weather and enjoy some outdoor settings. Nobby's Beach had the distinct look of summer, while families were enjoying the opportunity to spend some quality time together. And for most kids, school and discipline were the last things on their mind. Until tomorrow, that is. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
"24-year-old Petrina Eaglesham, a mother of one, worked as a part-time model and as a teller at the Commonwealth Bank. On March 12, 2002, she was found on the bottom level of a Taree car park in her mother's car with 2 deep cuts to her throat. Petrina's estranged husband, Glenn Eaglesham, was charged with the murder. He pleaded not guilty, and today his trial began in the Newcastle Supreme Court. In his opening address, Crown Prosecutor Peter Barnett said Mr Eaglesham's fingerprints had been found at the crime scene. He also said the 33-year-old had originally claimed to know nothing about the attack. But today the court heard that almost 2 months after her death,
The accused wrote letters to Petrina's mother saying he had actually found his estranged wife dead that night and had tried to help her but panicked and ran off. When I picked up her head and saw her neck, it was horrible. I didn't know what to do. I tried to help her, but I freaked out and ran home, it read. Today, the first of what's expected to be 70 witnesses were sworn in a trial that is expected to last up to 5 weeks. Jessica Phyllis, NBN News.
Netball is Katie Walker's passion. She loves it so much, the Queenslander refused to give up on her dream of playing in the National League competition, despite being overlooked by her home team in Brisbane. A move to Sydney has led to her being picked up by the Hunter Jaegers, and on Friday night, that dream will be reality.
So many people have waited for this, not just me, and if it wasn't for them, I probably wouldn't be here. They just kept me going for so long, and I get all emotional when I think about it.
Her husband Shane is one of those staunch supporters, and the Rabbitohs hooker will be courtside with a number of family and friends, all making the trek from Queensland for Katie's debut match.
It worked out so perfectly. It's just meant to be. Maybe it'll be a little fairy tale, I don't know.
The script may have changed given Shane's injury, but Katie is happy to play her part. While the centre wing attack isn't guaranteed court time, her family aren't taking any risks should she play. If she doesn't, you get the feeling it won't be long, and if enthusiasm is any guide, then what a player for the Hunters.
I've tried to get to this point for so long, now I'm here, I'll do whatever it takes.
Jim Callanan, NBN News.
The 3 visiting surgeons are from one of the largest hospitals in China and are here studying the latest developments in vascular surgery, which relates to blood vessels.
They're very well-respected surgeons in China, well known in China. They come from the main hospital in Beijing.
Today, the specialists observed and assisted renowned surgeon Dr. Alan Bray during an operation on a patient with an aneurysm in his aorta. Essentially, the doctor is sealing a bubble in the main artery of the abdomen. If the bubble hadn't been treated, it could have ruptured and it's likely the patient would have died. The operation is completed using X-ray equipment, which allows the surgeon to treat the affected area without having to surgically open the chest cavity.
It's a new technique developed by Australians and they're wanting to see what we're doing.
More than 100 of these operations are performed in this hospital every year, and Dr. Bray will be spreading his knowledge even further when he pays a return visit to the Beijing surgeons.
I intend going over there later this year and we'll be doing some cases there in Beijing.
Jessica Phyllis, NBN News. fresh off the plane from Canada and straight onto the ice. With just 2 days until the season opener, there is no rest for the weary, and that includes 6 jet-lagged imports added to the North Stars ice hockey team. Steve Wazilka was one of the new additions. He'll bring plenty of experience to the Novocastrian side, having previously been drafted in the 4th round of the highest league in Canada and the States, the NHL.
Before I came down here, I never heard of Newcastle, but it's a pleasant surprise. It's a beautiful city, and it's going to be fun to get back into the whole hockey thing.
The club hopes a stronger team will help it secure back-to-back titles in 2004.
Last year we were small and quick, and this year we'll have a bit more size, and we will be quick as well.
Coach Rob Barnes is back after leading the Australian men's team to 3rd place in the World Championships during the off-season, and the former pro coach is well aware of the challenges a defending champion team faces.
Everybody knows you're the champion and they want to knock you off. So we're going to be really challenged by all the other teams in every single game that we play.
Round 1 on Saturday sees a grand final replay between the Stars and West Sydney in Bankstown. Jessica Phillis, NBN News.
Desperate to play, the final decision on Ben Kennedy's fitness was a cautious but correct one, according to his coach.
I think he's made the right decision to hopefully get himself 100% for next week. As much as tomorrow's important, next week and the next 20 weeks is important as well.
In a rarity, the same 17 that played Canberra will now back up for the Bunnies, including George Carmont, who continues his stint in the top grade in the centres. A win, though, would make everyone's day.
As well as they played, you want to win games of football, and I think that's very much in the back of their mind for tomorrow.
It's a $30,000 fine for a salary cap breach that bugs the club's administration.
It's a breach of paperwork. We didn't get our paperwork right when we should have.
Prepared to wear the blame himself, the CEO is considering appealing the severity of the fine. Along with the Knights, the Royal Blind Society and the Hunter Medical Research Institute will be appealing to the public for funds in a range of associated projects over the next 12 months. The football club will be working closely with both organisations to raise funds and started things off today with 2 unique jumpers signed by all long-term captains, which will be either raffled or sold in the coming months. The Newcastle team that won the country championship last year bears little resemblance to the side that starts their title defence tomorrow against Western Division. That's not to say it's short on experience, with former Knight Leo Dinova leading the side from halfback, and early signs are encouraging.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, after watching them at training the other night, we've got good players in key spots. Obviously your number 9, Ryan Dagwell, your 7, Leo, and your 1, Dean Amos.
It'll be a big day for Jacob Briggs, who'll partner Dinova in the halves, while Todd Madison's return to rep footy reflects his strong start to the year. The match kicks off at Toronto's Lyle Peacock Oval at 1:30. Most players will be expected to then back up for their club sides on Sunday in some key games that sees Wyong host West and Lakes playing Cessnock. Wanderers and Merewether renew their rivalry tomorrow in Newcastle and Hunter Rugby, while Hamilton meet joint leaders Maitland at Marcellin. One game tomorrow in the NBN Soccer League, while the Gunners, Adamstown, Cessnock and Lake Macquarie are at home on Sunday. And St John's Park lawn bowler Ray Pickard added the Newcastle City Masters singles title to his Hamilton Pairs crown today after beating former winner Wayne Lambourne. Up by 1 shot after 18 ends, Pickard blew the Maitland City bowler away, scoring 17 unanswered shots to win 31-13 at the Lowlands Bowling Club.
250 people in New South Wales are admitted to hospital each year due to accidents using quad bikes on farms, and unfortunately for some, the injury can be fatal. Special demonstrations at the Tokal Field Days have been designed to help change that.
This year we've got a special feature on showing people how to work tractors better, how to deal with horses, and particularly quad bikes, because quad bikes unfortunately have claimed some lives in the valley recently.
Visitors were also taught about the hazards of farm machinery.
Farm machinery looks quite benign, but it's very fatal to many people. So the training from the field days and also training that people get in short courses here we think are particularly important, because you never know whose life you save.
And another highlight this year, scientists from New South Wales Agriculture are measuring the amount of methane gas given off by a cow. The equipment aims at finding those animals that produce less methane to breed more greenhouse-friendly cows. The Tokal Field Days continue until Sunday. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News. Reading from her police notebook, retired Senior Constable Lisa Nichols told the court Petrina came into the Taree police station to seek an apprehended violence order against her husband, just days before she was killed on March 12, 2002. The 24-year-old told police that her estranged husband visited her mother's home where she was staying on Wednesday the 5th of March, asking to take their son to Queensland and threatening to punch her. When Crown Prosecutor Peter Barrett asked Miss Nichols about the events of the following day, she told the court Petrina said, "He came inside. He was following me inside the house, abusing me and threatening me. He held me down on the lounge and said I could do you in quite easily." The court heard he then allegedly followed her outside with a Chinese chopping knife. The court was also told that he allegedly said to Petrina that I thought about taking you both and driving you off a cliff so that you can see my pain. That was 4 days before her murder. The trial continues. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
When you close a hotel with 72 rooms, you're left with, well, 72 of everything, like a flotilla of fridges, drawers by the chest load, and loads of lamps showered with shades. It'll all be auctioned this Wednesday at 33 Annie Street, Wickham, and there's bound to be some bargains.
The mere fact of the quantities will help the bargains. I mean, there'll be, things will range for, like it's an unreserved sale basically throughout, and it all has to be cleared, so it's a good opportunity. And the quality of the furniture is good. Like, they've obviously spent a lot of time in fitting out the Holiday Inn when they did it, and people have said to me all day today things like, oh, you can't buy a quality bed like this nowadays, and things like, as in the sofa beds, etc. So, yeah, I think it'd be a bargain. Yeah, good chance to buy.
48 sofa beds are up for grabs along with associated designer prints. There's a cascade of comfy cushions and a battalion of bed heads. There's also 6 original John Earl paintings commissioned especially for the hotel.
there are some reasonably priced items going to hit the market, which are of all very good quality because they're coming out of a quality hotel.
It could be your chance to buy something you've always wanted, like a chest of drawers with a stylish built-in clock radio. Bidding starts at 10:30 on Wednesday.
He may be back home, but Jamie Pittman was still riding that wave of emotion that comes with qualifying for the Olympic Games.
And once my corner got called out, it was all hell broke loose. I just went everywhere. It was the best feeling of my life.
4 years after a controversial decision at the same qualifying stage ended his chances of Sydney, it left the 22-year-old wondering if he'd ever be an Olympian. But another tough 4 years of preparation has paid the ultimate dividend.
A lot of blood, sweat and tears, and it's a hard sport and a lonely sport, and the hard work's paid off.
Qualifying for the Games has come at a cost both physically and financially. Jamie now has to pay off the $4,000 needed for Tonga and train for the Games. In Premier League hockey, it was another cakewalk for Norths with an 11-0 win over the Students. 5-goal wins for the Entrants, Maitland and West in the other games. Meanwhile, Charlestown and Maitland City will play in Premier League Lawn Bowls preliminary semi-finals this weekend. A win for both would set up a minor semi-final showdown against each other the following week. And the week-long Newcastle Croquet Carnival began today, with Australian player Steve Metheringham tipped to be the one to beat in the singles event. Entries this year include a number of state players as well.
They're usually reserved for patients, but today midwives at the John Hunter Hospital were being congratulated for a job well done. The role of the midwife is one of the world's oldest professions, but in the Hunter there's an increasing struggle to attract new employees. Unlike New Zealand, England and the United States, Australian midwives must undertake 3 years of nursing training before studying to be a midwife.
I would like to see direct entry right across the board.
Lengthy training may have deterred many others, but not Bronwyn Dyer, who is in her second year of nursing studies.
I have 2 boys and I had both of them at home using independent midwives, and just seeing their daily work, it was so amazing and it really spoke to me.
There are currently just 360 midwives in the Hunter who provide support for up to 4,000 women every year. For Kim Brown, that support proved crucial this morning when she delivered a new little bundle of joy, Ruby Ray.
I think if you trust them, it's a lot easier, and it doesn't hurt as much if you're not frightened.
Colleen West, NBN News. It's been a week of highs for Natalie Ward. She's just returned from Osaka in Japan, where she plays softball professionally, to the news that she's been selected in the Olympic Games team. It'll be the Katara South Stars' 3rd Olympics, following Atlanta and Sydney, but her excitement remains at fever pitch.
I think it would always be exciting to be named in the Olympic team. First time around it was like, wow, this is amazing, I've been selected for the Olympics, and 3rd time now it's even more special, I think.
Yesterday, the 28-year-old travelled to Sydney for the Australian team's uniform launch. And then today, yet another piece of good news, the added bonus of being a torchbearer. And after 2 Olympic bronze medals, this time she's hoping for...
Definitely to change the colour.
Natalie has put her job with Japanese team Mickey House on hold to rehabilitate her injured shoulder at home ahead of the Olympics. She goes into camp with the Olympic team in Brisbane in 2 weeks' time. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Whooping cough is most dangerous to newborns, but it can affect people of any age. A John Hunter Hospital nurse didn't realise he had the disease and went to work caring for mothers and babies in the maternity ward. That's despite hospital health warnings.
Well, we've had a strong message to staff at Hunter Health for a long time about cough illness and the importance of avoiding exposure to patients.
The staff member was diagnosed with whooping cough last Friday. She's now on sick leave and won't return until she's completed a course of antibiotics. Hunter Health is contacting 34 women who may have been under the nurse's care, advising them to seek antibiotic treatment for their babies as a precautionary measure.
Having the antibiotics early should prevent them from getting any illness.
Dr Ferguson says the risk of exposed babies contracting the disease is only low, but Hunter Health is advising the affected mothers to take all possible measures to protect their youngsters from the potentially fatal disease. Natasha Bayersdorf, NBN News.
For the 2-man crew of the trawler Tradewinds, it was to be an ordinary night's fishing off Crowdy Head on the mid-north coast. But 2 hours after dark, tragedy struck.
Approximately 7 o'clock last night, we got a report that a local fishing boat, I believe the Tradewinds, was upturned and was sunk off southeast of Crowdy Head, about 6 mile out.
It's thought the boat capsized when its nets became snagged and the winches continued to operate, pulling the vessel under. Both men were thrown into the water, but only one could be rescued.
The local fishing boat, Estina, Robin Madalena, the skipper, luckily it wasn't too far away and was able to pick him up out of the water, but unfortunately they weren't able to find the other crewman.
Local fishermen gathered at dawn, fearful of the fate of Mr Heathcote, but thankful for the rescue of his younger crewman. The air and sea search for the 49-year-old is being coordinated from the Crowdy-Harrington Coastal Patrol base.
We're about 5 miles north of where the boat sank.
Today, Pol Air and Water Police were joined by a small flotilla of vessels in a search pattern as a strong southerly wind and heavy swells lashed the coast. Hopes remain of finding the skipper alive. Paul Lobb, NBN News.